Guys, this is gonna be a very interesting video today. It was a while I was uploaded, but we're not talking about that. Today I'm gonna be explaining every single type of memory in Minecraft. Not exactly every single, but they're really useful and they're really often used. I really use them so much times. Except the last one, but we're just gonna talk about all of them so that you can have more context with the memory. So to have some better context before we go over some more components, let's start with a little bit of types of memory. What exactly is memory? There's no way you don't know it, but just in case we have some context. So this right here is where we can write, only write, yep, we can only write it. So if I just flick this right, you can see nothing happens because it's literally a locked repeater, that's it. So if I go and input something, and if I write it, so you can see it stays in the memory. Nothing happens because it's already in the memory, but if I input nothing and write it, you can see it's gone. So that's literally what we're doing here. Now let's move on to the next redstone component right here. This one uses distance or just distant good. But apparently this is just a distant type. So if I do input, right? If I input it, it's technically around. And I mean I already have some data here, so let's get rid of it. Oh man, the easiest way to get rid of it is just replace this with a snap. Now if I input something, nothing happens because it's basically a RAM. But it's kind of incompact. There is a little better type in there, so it just have some more context. That's why. So if I write it, and again, I just connected it to the wrong place. Clear. That does nothing. This is a little bit of a dysfunctional one, so let's just skip this one. And now we're gonna go with RS NOR latch. RS NOR latch is a type of what's called logic gates. So, what is even logic gates? One ask. Logic gates is actually a very useful thing. It's something like this, and we can also do this. But yeah, this is the RS NOR latch. Yeah, this is basically the same thing. So let's try to clear it. Sure, it's already cleared. But let's try to enable it, and as you can see, it stays in the memory. I cannot enable it again because it's already enabled. But I can clear it, and as you can see, it's gone. So this one is a really cool device. I mean, it's kind of slow. I don't recommend using it. So maybe there's a better type of this. And yes, there is. You can literally use locked repeaters as well, but let's move on to the next thing, which is even more interesting. Memory devices. So we got RAM. What does RAM mean? It's called random access memory. Basically, it literally a device that can help you write and read. There's no clear function though. To clear it, you need to input nothing and then write. But it's actually really often used in the CPUs. So what is it right here? So you can go ahead and input it. This right here is our SNOR latch. If we want to write it, basically what this will do, it will basically enable this RS NOR latch. So if I go ahead and enable it, you can see it will just unlock this comparator and it will enable this RS NOR latch. And now I can clear it and that's it. Although this is not a type of RAM. Why? Because if I want to change my mind, right? If I write it, there's a little problem when I want to change my mind. Because it already will show the output, which is like, bro, I want to change my mind. Let me just change my mind, then I can see whatever is in there. So let's try to do something else with this. This is again just a type of locked repeaters. It's super simple. And this is the entire RAM. So what is this RAM right here? You can see I can go ahead and input something, and I can write it already. Although we don't see anything, because to tell us, I mean, to ask this device what did we have in the memory, right? So that tells us exactly what we have in the memory. We just read it, and that's it. It now shows up what is in the memory. If I clear it, and then if I only power it like this, you can see there's nothing in the memory, so it's not going to show anything. This is really useful device. I mean, it does have this function where you write it, right? You write it. Want to change your mind? Well, there you go. That's pretty much it. But there's one problem. I mean, it's a huge problem. When you're making a vertical and stacking it, well, there's gonna be a lot of gaps between. So, is there a better type of RAM? Fortunately, there is. Just don't mind about this repeater going like this. You can literally just connect that into dust and bust it down. That's literally how I should do it. But it's actually a lot better. But it does look a little more complicated, so I'm gonna explain it. In my case, I'm also uh, reading everything at the same time. So what is it here? Sorry. So if I input Y right here, right, we can see that this is not good for me because the repeater is locked by this comparator. So I want to unlock it. Well, we just powered this redstone dust. And yeah, we'll basically unlock this comparator for mere a second, and then we'll lock it back. Now if I read it again, well, there's literally what is in the memory. And it works with stackable purposes. This is again a very useful device. I really like it. I would always use it. I always use it, nearly always. But this is pretty much the RAM. Now let's move on to ROM. ROM is a little easier, and it's not used as much as RAM, but ROM means read-only memory, and it's kind of similar to RAM despite words being different. But the easiest way you can do it is just a encoder actually. Decoder is basically an encoder backwards. So yeah, that's basically it. This is literally an encoder. Not the entire video, but this is an encoder. What is an encoder, you might ask me? It's actually hard to explain. Despite itself, it's actually very easy to understand how it works. If you power this on, you'll get this. Basically, it's converting whatever you're inputting to the coded number or coded output, basically, with simple terms. Yeah, that's actually very useful, but there's another type of encoder, but I do not recommend using it. You can use slab towers. It's kind of slow, but here's how you can use it. It's the same thing. It's just a torch tower with torches right here. Basically, it's very cool. You can literally use slab towers. I do not recommend using this at all. But we can try to synchronize it. Why not? So I think to synchronize it, you should put 2-tick repeater right here and a 4-tick repeater right here. Okay, that did not work at all. Oh, I realized that's why I made everything in reverse. Yep, there we go. Now that should work. You can see it's synchronized. Awesome. Let me just put it back real quick. Another type of ROM is actually a screen. And you might tell me, bro, this is not a ROM. Well, you can try to use 7-segment displays as your ROM. Even though this is not a 7-segment display, it uses 2x2 pixels to draw. But if you look at the back of it, you'll see encoders, which contain their main data just to draw a pixel. So yeah, we can draw some numbers using this. So like let's try 9 for example, and yeah, you can see we got a 9. Also, the screen is synchronized, so it's actually really cool. It takes like I don't know, I think it takes 6 ticks to draw something with my guesses, but this device is cool. I'm sorry, but the next thing we got is I/O ports. I/O ports, input-output ports, is mainly used in the CPUs. So what we have here, this is basically the entire I/O port. I know it looks complicated, but it's actually not. So let me show you what is it. Let's try to put 2 and 1 right here. You can see there's literally nothing going on right now, but let's say we're also putting an output of 2. Uh-oh. This is not something that should be happening. Oh man, well, I'll just put a repeater, yeah. There we go. Should be fixed. Oh man. Something is powering this. I don't know what exactly it is. But I think oh, there we go. Yeah. But basically that's literally I/O port. So we have 2 right here and 1 right here. If you wanna read from port one, we just flick this lever, and we're reading it from this port. So we're getting two. And want to read from port two, just flick this lever, and it has one in it. So we're getting one right here as well. Kind of useful. I like this device. I really use it really often. And the output right here is our two, right? It's our output. I know it does look like it's not even an output because we're putting it with levers. But if you're using this in a CPU, this lever should not exist because this line is gonna be powered by the CPU itself. So it's the output, and this one can be powered by you. So I got a two right here, and if I want to write it to ports, right here we write it, not read. So if I write it to here, we can see that it's wrote in here. But yeah, we now wrote it in here, and you can see if I unflick this, it's not gonna do any changes because it's in the memory. So yeah, this one it's just another type of memory. Although with input sync, this is not even a type of memory. So it's kind of cool. I love it. I really use it very often, and it's actually a pretty like respectful device for being such a small one. And now time for the biggest and the last one, which is a floppy. Which basically a floppy drive. You might have heard of it, but floppy drive. You might ask me, it's probably like an HDD or SSD drive, like in our modern times. But floppy drive actually has one restriction. Um, the restriction is you cannot have a file size more than ranging from 640 kilobytes to I think 1.25 megabytes, depending on the floppy drive itself. But we have the same restriction here. We cannot have a file size more than two bits, not bytes. We can imagine this as our file, right? But technically, this is just a hex RAM. It's not even a floppy drive. Technically, it is. But technically, it's a hex RAM. I'm speaking technically too much. The word technically, actually. But yeah, this floppy drive, it's cool. Let's try it out. You input with hexadecimal numbers. So let's go ahead and set, like, I don't know, let's do 11. I think I'll go with 10. Let's put 10 in here. And let's do another type of signal strength. Like, let's just do 6. So we're gonna put 6 right here. Oops. So now what we're gonna do, right? We see nothing is coming up here. We need to write it whatever we need. So let's just write it in let's just put it in here. Why not? So you can see right here, this is literally our memory right here. So if I press F3, you can see this is power of 10, this is power of 6. Exactly what I put in. If I want to read it, well, there you go. I just read it, and yeah, the output is here. Although the 10 doesn't seem to be coming out. So let's find out why. And I don't know why there's no dust. But yeah, you can see it's 10 and 6. Now what we can do? We can write it to clusters. And you might instantly ask me, what in the world even clusters are? Clusters are like cache of the output. So if I cache into clusters, right? I think that's clusters. I don't know. Correct me in the comments, please. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely sure that's a cluster. But I'm not. But I don't guarantee it's a cluster. Correct me in the comments, please. Um. So now we got a 6 and a 10. If I turn off this output, right? So now I have nothing in it. And now if I do it just shifted it. But technically, this is a shift register in hexadecimal. But yeah, this is basically it. The world download is in the description. You can do anything with it. And yeah, that's the memory explained.